Thank you all for being here. I'm Jim Louderback. I'm your moderator right here. And as you know, we've got Benjamin, Wiktoria, and Eric, and we're going to talk a little bit about meaningful content and why it is a new tool for growth. So to get started, we're going to just do some quick rapid-fire questions. The first one I want to ask my panelists right here is, what is meaningful content in 5 words or less? Benjamin, go.
I think meaningful content for me is content that is more than just entertainment.
More than just entertainment. Wiktoria?
For me, meaningful content is the content that makes you not feel dread when you have consumed it and you feel like, oh, this brought me something.
Right, brought you something. It's a deliverable. Go ahead, Eric.
Meaningful content to me means creating a value and solving a problem to a very individual person that is consuming that content.
Value and problem solving at the individual level. Okay, I like that. Talk about, you work with brands, work with creators, work with people who are supposedly supposed to be creating meaningful content, right? Let's talk about maybe a brand or a creator that actually is creating meaningful content. Come up with a good example. Eric, I'm going to start with you.
One of our creators on Whyzzer, he's Takumi. He created 300,000 followers within a very short amount of time. And the thing is, he's doing valuable content to his audience, and that's how he grew.
What is an example of the valuable content that he's doing?
So Takumi teaches how to make money online and how to build business online, and he does it in a very professional way and very fast pace. He plays it perfectly out into the audiences on the different platforms, and that's how he grew.
Cool. Benjamin, what about you?
I think this is a pretty niche creator. He is, his name is Daniel Jung, and he's a German guy starting to do math tutorials for students. And with that meaningful content, he built a following of a couple of millions on YouTube, and no student in Germany doesn't know his name.
Oh, really? Everyone knows him.
He built a crazy brand around that meaningful content, in this case, mathematics. But I think he is a good example for that.
Does he make math easy?
I think first thing is, his lectures are like 2 minutes. And you really understand it. And I don't know what his magic spice source is, I don't know. But somehow you can really, really easily understand when he is explaining complex topics to you.
Interesting. Wiktoria, creator or brand that's creating meaningful content you can call out.
Favorite brand. I would say that I have 3 types of brands and creators. So first one, I'm gonna say Ryanair, but it's not meaningful in a sense of it brings you a lot of value, but it makes you feel like, okay, this is something interesting, this is something different, and it's funny, and this is what it's supposed to be. Like, the brand is not saying, oh, we're gonna teach you about something, because it's not the room for the brand. The second, on the other side of things, I forgot the name right now, but there is a content creator, and if you watch TikTok on Instagram, you probably have seen them. A guy who is a psychologist who makes very good content about relationships and questions you should ask yourself and your partner and how to react to situations. And he's not the only one. And I think there is a lot of educational self-help videos that are really good for people. And the third one, an example for how to use content for growth. And I don't know if I would call this content meaningful. There is a company called Tabs, and if you watch TikTok or Instagram, you probably have seen it. These are the sex chocolates, the ones that make you go a bit warm and hot. And what they do, and this is extremely interesting, they hacked content creation. They have 30 accounts, and on these 30 accounts, there is always one content creator that posts at least 1 to 3 10-second TikToks, branded TikToks that are look like UGC, and they have a system of constantly going viral with those things. So the meaningfulness is more for the brand and what they achieve by doing content that seems natural, but they hacked it to post it on 30 different channels at the same time, 3 times a day, with no clear CTAs, they threw out every marketing rule, and it worked out for them. So it's a very interesting case.
Interesting. I want to lean into something you talked about, which is humor. I hear a lot about on TikTok, you want to do it right, it's got to be funny. How important, and Benjamin, let's start with you, but how important is humor in creating meaningful content?
I think humor and entertainment, I think both of that is helping users to consume meaningful content. Because I think if it's too dry and if it's just the educational part of it, people will not stick to it. It's too heavy to consume, and the options or the alternatives on TikTok and other platforms are way easier to consume, and you don't have to put on your brain. So I think it's really necessary to somehow bring that in, that people stay engaged with that content.
But
Wiktoria,
the biggest mistake that brands make is think, okay, if we want to reach young people, we have to be funny. Sorry, my tampon brand doesn't have to be funny, and it shouldn't be. Maybe it can have grains of humor, but you cannot go unhinged like Ryanair or Duolingo with your tampon brand or any kind of like this type of brand and say, oh, this is our strategy. So I'd say like the meaningful is, of course, it cannot be very stiff, and authenticity is the favorite word of marketing. But the worst thing is brands thinking that to create good content to young people, they have to be funny. They don't. They can bring value in any other ways.
So Frank Zappa once said, released an album actually, Frank Zappa the musician, does humor belong in music? Does humor belong in educational content, Eric?
I think it does, if it's authentic. And I think that's summarizing what you both said. If you try to build educational content out there and you try to make it funny, people are going to feel it's made to be funny. And
right, if it's cringy,
it's not,
right?
It's
if it's cringy, it's not
I didn't want to
hard.
use that word, but yeah, it's cringy a bit. So I think it's about creating value again. If you create value to a certain audience that you want to attract or reach, and it's a niche maybe even, it's going to be good. And if it's then a bit funny because the personality is funny, I'm not a funny person, but if I would do it and I would be authentic, then it would be good.
Yeah,
but if I try to fake it, it's
well,
not
authenticity, I mean, it's such an overused word. You all brought up authenticity. Let's talk about authenticity in the framework of meaningful content. Do you have to be authentic to do meaningful content, or can you do it and just, I don't know what's the opposite of authenticity? Fake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thoughts, somebody talk about authenticity. Oh, okay, Benjamin, go ahead.
Yeah, I think like with Whyzzer, we are really focusing on making an educational kind of a social media. So for us, authenticity and a verification, I think that's really close to each other. And if somebody is teaching something on Whyzzer or is talking about a certain topic on Whyzzer, we as a platform also have to make sure that those people are really authentic and verified and not talking bullshit or are fake. So I think in that matter, especially in the area of education, it is one of the most crucial points.
I think it's a part of content creation too. Because I think there's certain formats like TikTok where authenticity is lost by the cuts that you're doing. Imagine we would do one take now. You would make a mistake, you would maybe spell a word wrong, or I'm breathing too heavily and so the audience can't hear me. And that's authenticity. But if you look into the very professional TikToks, it's like tuck, 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 tuck. It's really perfectly made, and it takes a bit of authenticity away. Okay. Everyone is perfect all the time. So I see a lot of creators, and I think you mentioned it before, that are becoming more authentic in their content production. So they're talking about mental health, they're talking about their issues, they're talking about, I don't know, the founder syndrome or anything else, and being authentic to what they present. And maybe we can even go a step further and be authentic in the way we create the content itself.
Yeah, it seems to me when I think about it that, and listen to you guys talking, I've listened to people talk about this on the verified stage yesterday, that when we think about Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they lean much more into this sort of realistic, authentic version of who and what they are versus perhaps millennials with Instagram making it perfect. Has that changed the way we think about making effective content, Wiktoria?
Yeah, I think so, because when you grew up with having internet, and like I, for most of my life, have had access to internet, you learn to really catch advertising really quick. And advertising has been perfect for very long. There is a brand book and logo safe space and all this bullshit around it. And advertising is really a synonym to not authentic, not real, maybe sometimes over the top, and people, when they see perfect content, they associate it with the advertising, especially in the digital space. So I noticed that when I scroll TikTok, I have 0.5 seconds, and I know that something is an ad, and I will scroll past it. And my boyfriend he's like 6 years older than me, so he's a millennial, and it takes him 1.5 seconds, so 3 times more. And somebody with a very standard ad and a content that's like very marketing, they will get those 1.5 seconds out of him, but they will not get it from me and from other Gen Z people, because we are just fed up with so many ads. And this is why authenticity I see as two things. So first of all is putting your actions where your mouth is, so really not being something you're not. You are not a funny tampon brand, sorry. And the second part of it is really making it look like content that people want to watch instead of something that is here to make the brand look good.
Right. Benjamin, can you create meaningful content for multiple generations? I mean, hearing from Wiktoria, it sounds like what works for her doesn't work for her boyfriend who's 6 years older and is a millennial.
I think it's a big challenge, and we try to tackle that challenge, Eric and I, together with Whyzzer, that we create a new format and a way of both creating the content and consuming the content in a new and different way, so that educational or meaningful content, purposeful content, however we name it here, is transferred for more than just one generation. And everybody can consume it and use it for themselves.
I think you tackle two problems there, because the consumption, you talked about the consumption on TikTok and on Instagram, it's split seconds that people value right or wrong, good or bad for me, am I interested or not? And if we talk about meaningful content, there's a message behind and there's a thinking process behind. So if that person has a millisecond to understand if it's meaningful or not, the content has to be super fast. So you're tackling the consumption to be fast and easy to understand, but the production can't be, if we are targeting a big audience, to share meaningful content, can't be complicated. And so this is basically the biggest problem that needs to be solved, at least in the meaningful content industry, matching the content production with an easy consumption or fast consumption.
If it looks like an ad, it's most likely an ad.
If it looks like an ad, it smells like an ad, it's an ad, right?
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about another buzzword out there that maybe is overused as authentic, which is storytelling. Storytelling is, I mean, I'm staying in a hotel here in Portugal that's called Story. What's your Lisbon story? Is storytelling equivalent to meaningful content? Does one need the other? Wiktoria, you've got a hot take on this. Hop in.
Yeah, I'd say that storytelling is the buzzword of 2016, and a lot has changed from that part. Of course, like, we still, as people, like to be told stories, and when we even get the best education, like the best educational content is telling us some kind of a story, they reel you in with something interesting, they develop, and there is a meaningful ending. But for example, in content right now, there is no space for long, long time ago, far, far, far away. No, you get straight into the action. So I'd say that the story part of it is not as important as in the first hook and then the story in the background. So you will have, for example, people creating content when there is a girl doing makeup and she's telling a story from her life, and it's gonna have millions of views. But the first component is the hook and something that makes people interested. So I'd say that we moved on from a slow burn storytelling into taking those pieces of what makes a story good, what makes people hooked up on content, and what makes them want to learn more, and then incubating it into content. You cannot just simply do a fairy tale and expect people to really get into it.
Benjamin, what do you think about storytelling?
I think that's right, but at the same time, that's also the problem, in my opinion, or in our opinion, we have with current social media platforms and current platforms where you distribute that content, that the content has to have a hook, something is falling down a cliff or somebody's doing some crazy shit, so that you get their attention to get your real message out there. And I think we should try to work on this and provide something that makes and change the behavior of users. And I don't know if our platforms can do that, or existing platforms can do that. We try to do that by giving users a completely different approach to the content. You don't see content right away when you join our platform. You first be approached with the topic and the people talking in that thing, so you make the decision to click on the content and then consume it, so you know what you're going to see there, except of getting a hook and just being attached to it or not. and make a decision in 0.05, I don't know, seconds.
Yeah, what do you, go ahead.
I wanted to add, I agree with you because I focused a lot about video, but for example, the rise of independent newsletters that are also like very quality content, there is no SEO optimization in it, in the past years shows that people yearn to consume something that's less fast, more meaningful is the word, but something that brings really something interesting to the table. So I'd say that there are two ways. Like first of all, there's always the headline, but what's inside is what makes people to decide that the next time they see you in their inbox, on their feed or anything, they will decide to, okay, I'm gonna read it even if it's long form or watch it.
Yeah, I love that you bring up newsletters. I do one called Inside the Creator Economy. I'm not sure I tell stories that way, but I try to give meaningful content. So we'll see, you can all decide. What do you think about storytelling, Eric?
I do believe storytelling is the most important part, but I am 100% with you. The consumption in itself at the point when people consume is the most important part, because look at Instagram, TikTok, they're all battling for the attention of the users. You're sitting at a bus stop, and you're waiting for the bus. You're opening your phone, you have a bunch of WhatsApp messages that are trying to grab your attention, you have email that is trying to grab your attention, you have Instagram and TikTok and all these other platforms that they all try to get to you with a certain hook.
Yep.
And now the behavior, to change that behavior in a way that you, instead of go to Instagram, go to an app where you have consumption that is valuable, or you take your time. I saw your phone, we talked about your phone, she has one of those clapping phones, and it's amazing because you said, and that's true, since the phone is closed, there's no information coming out of it, so it's not always this attention that it's dragging. So I think getting to the behavior of the user or of the audience, of the broad audience, to get them to understand when to choose a certain content piece, I think that's the part that we should change and work on.
There is an interesting trend happening on YouTube right now. YouTube is overflowing with Mr. Beast clones that are very viral, very grab your attention, very make you watch. And there's a group of younger creators that are doing something they call YouTube New Wave, which is about higher production and more storytelling and really trying to be a little bit, diametrically opposed to what Mr. Beast is doing. So I'm going to ask each of you to react quickly, but let me know, is Mr. Beast meaningful storytelling? Wiktoria?
He's an expert in hooking people up. It's dystopian to watch when you try to analyze what's happening in the video.
But is it meaningful?
It brings entertainment, so I would say that there is more meaning in other types of content, but you cannot say no that he's an expert in making it watchable for people.
Okay, Mr. Beast, meaningful?
I think he is a great storyteller doing the whole videos and the whole content, but for myself, I wouldn't classify it as meaningful. It's entertainment, pure entertainment.
Meaningful?
I'm again about the audience. If the audience, if it's grabbing the attention and if people like it, it provides a certain meaning, whatever that is, to the people in that moment. And if I consume content on TikTok or YouTube, I can see myself being from that video to that one. In the end, I wanted to watch something cool and something inspiring and meaningful, and I ended up watching dog videos, and I'm like, how did I end up in the puppy section?
But do you feel bad about that? Or
I feel bad about it. I feel
Dog
bad about it then.
videos, the best content.
I'm literally sitting there for 20 minutes. My girlfriend, you can ask my girlfriend, she's in the audience, and she's like, Eric, what are you doing? Yeah, I'm stuck on YouTube again.
Yeah.
And what are you watching? I actually don't know anymore. It's like from one day to the next. And then I feel really bad. And then I'm like, okay, phone away, now work again.
Yeah, the meaning is gone. The meaning is gone. Well, what about what some of these new wave YouTubers are saying is about higher production value and more storytelling or whatever you want to call it? Do you see that as a trend that's going to increase in the creation of meaningful content, or are they just sort of just pushing against a wave that's never going to be pushed against? Anybody?
I'd say that we live in a great world when everybody is connected, so you don't have to have millions of viewers. You can have 100 that are the right people for you. Of course, there is this issue that a lot of content creators or brands think, okay, we'll make a newsletter, people will come to read, or we'll make a podcast. And really, your piece of content is the end of the funnel. And making people to get to this, especially very engaging content like demanding content like newsletter or podcast, is a lot of work in itself. But I think that in most cases, it's not about gaming, everything to get to everyone, but to the right audiences, and this is the best time it has ever been to do that.
I think it's important who are you creating the content for.
Yep.
Like you said, if you try to go out and create content for everyone, it's gonna be, and so in the end, who are you creating the content for? I think that's...
So Eric, quickly, you work on the product side,
Yeah.
and how does product design on platforms or on what you're building influence the ability for content to be meaningful?
It's basically the whole way of producing the content. We took a very long time to analyze and test and iterate certain different versions of products, and we saw a big trend actually happening, and Be Real, I think, is the best example for that. Clubhouse is a nice example for that too. Being honest, authentic, and in a way live, like you are, without a filter or without a retouch or stuff like that. So being on that part fast, so we're changing that part. And I think the important part is to make it super easy and to give the creator the hooks to be happy about what they're doing. So it's super important that the audience is there, that they're getting recognition, that they have value out of the creation itself. So cross-branding effects, for example. If you have a creator that has 100 million followers on YouTube and Instagram, and you take another one that has 500 million, you put them together, and it's a big audience that is watching that, and that's where you can tap into. And
Yep.
I think gamification is a word that is used so much, but it's true, and it's still true. Gamification, push messages in the right moments.
Right message to the right person at the right time, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wiktoria, you think and talk a lot about the metaverse and VR and that world. How does meaningful content change, develop, evolve as we move into these immersive experiences?
Sure, I'll be quick on that. So if you think that an average kid spends on Roblox 156 minutes a day versus an average TikTok user just 96 minutes, you see that those games become new social media, like the way that people consume internet. And you can think that the internet will most likely move from the 2D of screens and keyboards to the 3D of immersive experiences. So the brands right now, of course, games are something for kids most of the time, but they are becoming new social media. So for brands, there's gonna come a moment, and a lot of them are doing this already, to think about, okay, we are creating our immersive experience, our game, our in-game map, and this is our new website, this is our new communication channel. And this is interesting because gaming is about getting people engaged, spending as much time as possible, and being happy about the experience. Game dev is the ultimate marketing lesson for people.
Cool. And Benjamin, last thing for you in the last 20 seconds we have, talk about experiential, live experiences like this. How are meaningful content being created here, and what are maybe some pluses, minuses?
Yeah, I think life is great, and people have a direct connection to the person on stage or on their phone because they see, okay, this person is right now talking. But at the same time, it's excluding a lot of people who don't have that access right now. And that's why we made the decision to build a feature which is not there yet on any other platform, and it gives you the feeling of live, but it's not live. And you can consume the content while it's created, and it's still on demand. So you have to check it out. So the
feeling of live, not live, makes for meaningful content as well.
Exactly.
Benjamin, Wiktoria, Eric, that's it. We're done. Thank you guys. Thanks, Web Summit. And we're going to move off this.